My friends, if you're like me, time doesn't always seem to be on your side. And, you know, especially if you are like me and there's so many things going on in your life, you know, distractions and jobs and hobbies and, of course, a family life and, you know, all the conflicts and stuff that comes in between all of them. Trying to manage time can be kind of overwhelming, right? And it's probably one of the most underrated topics discussed about the thing that we love, which is outdoor adventure, right? So today, we're going to talk about how to make the most out of time when you go camping. Some of these things we've talked about before, but you know, it's good to kind of have a reminder every once in a while. So we've been talking about the something hits the fan, go bag and go series and things like that, right? And to tie into that a little bit is the issue of time relevance. And I'm not what you'd call a prepper, right? But I do love making the most of a little bit of time that I have to get outside, you know, to like, boom, let's go. One of the worst things in the hobby, I think, is setting up camp in the dark. I hate setting up camp in the dark. But funny thing is I actually have a reputation for setting camp up in the dark. So, you know, I got a little bit of experience in trying to battling this. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, the job, right? Like if you're working a 9-to-5 job, you know, as soon as you get off work, you know, like especially this time of the year, it's already dark. It's pretty much already dark, right? Now during the summer, that's not so much the case. Then you got to think about travel. Like how far are you going to go to make your camping trip worthwhile, right? So we have to work around all these different things to get the most out of it. One of the first things we can do is have a bag, have a place, have a box, or something like that, that you can keep the gear that you use most. You know, that way when you get time, you know, you just throw it in, like the day before you have to leave, week before you have to leave, and keeping a checklist and a journal. You know, after, especially if you're new, after every trip that you go on, have a list of everything you took. If you didn't use it, then make note of that you didn't use it this trip. And maybe it's because something came up, you know, something happened, right? Now, there's certain things that you want to have just in case of emergency. First aid kit. If you never use a first aid kit, that's perfectly okay. But you should always take one, you know what I mean? But, you know, after 3 or 4 outings, whatever, you look back on your journal, it's like, man, you know what? This fancy doohickey that I bought, I really don't need it. Like, I've never used it, or I've used it once. And when I used it, was it even really necessary? So that can eliminate some of the packing issues, right? I'm pretty fortunate. My lovely wife, she gives me this space. You know, this space I have to keep my gear. And one of the things that's I just found useful time and time again is this box. Now I got gear elsewhere. I got gear in totes. You know, if you been in the hobby long enough, you probably got gear underneath your bed or in your nightstand. You got gear, you got gear various different places, right? So this is kind of like the core. This is the nucleus of what I take camping all the time. All right, I've done videos on that, and that's not what this video is about. But having a box like this, or a tote, or something like that, in a place that you keep your gear, will make your time so much more valuable. It really will. Okay, now let me explain. Like, okay, so you got your gear, right? I can go through this now and like 2 or 3 minutes, pull out the things that I know I'm going to use, close it up, put it to the side on the table so I can account for it before it goes in the bag, right? And that's just because everything that I know that I always use over time and time again is in here. Now certainly I have cold gear and I have warm gear, but these are like the core pieces of things that I use. And when I'm going car camping, heck, man, I don't even put it in the bag. You know, I just grab the whole box and put it in the car. You know, it's no big deal. If I'm going backpacking or I have to hike to a campsite, it's a little bit more of a pain, then I put it in my bag. But generally, car camping, shoot, just put the whole thing in the back of your car and you're good to go. All right, so that's going to save you a little bit of time. Now, when you decide where you're going to go and when you can arrive, as much as possible, you want to go during the daylight, right? Use natural light. Try to set up a camp with your car lights on or flashlight or, a lantern. That's a pain in the butt, right? And by the time you get done with everything, you're tired, right? You're doing this to get away from it all, to relax and enjoy yourself. So, try to use daylight time. Right now, it's getting dark around 6, 7 o'clock, you know what I mean? If you're in a winter camping, 5 o'clock, it'll get dark. So that makes it pretty hard. But during the warm months, which is what most people do when they go camping, try to show up no later than 2 or 3 o'clock, okay? That gives you plenty of time to set up your camp. Take your time in doing so, making sure that you're finding the appropriate ground. You know, you don't want to sleep on something like this, and you definitely don't want to sleep on something like this, right? So you're finding flat ground, you're clearing it from debris, right? You set up your tent, and now, next thing you want to do, you might want to write this down. You set up your tent, next thing you want to do is you want to go out and gather firewood. And you want to gather more firewood than you think you need, okay? During the hot summer months, maybe not so much. Maybe you're just lighting a fire just to let it burn an hour before you go to bed, right? But during the fall months and winter months, it's a whole new story, right? So you want to make sure you got plenty of firewood, and you want to have it stacked up. And especially once it gets dark, you want to make sure that that firewood is kind of graded. You got kindling, and you got pinky size and thumb size and wrist size, etc. So, you know, in the middle of the night, if you're winter camping and your fire is kind of dying down and you're really cold, all you have to do is grab that handful of like pinky to thumb stuff, throw it back on your fire to get it going, and then grab your wrist and larger and put it on the fire, right? And in the morning, in case your fire goes out, all you have to do is just grab your little bit of kindling, put it in the fire, because I don't know about you, but having a warm cup of something in the morning starts the morning off right? Okay, so now let's talk about food preparation, because generally food's part of the fun. Now, if you're starting out, have like one meal that's really in-depth, okay, just one. That way you can get used to practicing and making a fire and cooking on a fire, because cooking on a fire is very different from cooking on a stove. You know what I mean? So once you have that down and you practice it, you're good to go. You can cook things rather quickly. You know exactly how it goes. But starting out, that's a little bit more difficult. So you have one meal that you plan on cooking. That's going to be your fancy or your big meal, a little bit more in depth. A little bit more preparation possibly, right? Ideally you want to do all your preparation beforehand. If you can cut up an onion and put it in a little plastic container before you go, all the better. You know what I mean? Having some easy, quick meals, whether it be canned meals like canned stew. I love canned stew. When I'm hunting or when I'm just like going on a hike or something, having a can of stew that I can put out in a pot and eat, heat it up, it's good, right? Maybe you try, those fancy backpacking meals, but they're pretty expensive. You can also get military MREs, it's hit or miss. Most of them are pretty good, in my opinion. You can also go through your freeze-dried section. You're thinking rice, thinking Uncle Ben's rice with all the flavors and stuff. Get you a pouch of flavored chicken. You can get the instant mashed potato pouches. You can get pouches of gravy. Right, so you can get all these different things that are rather quick, and all you need is just a little bit of water, right? Or just heat up. So that'll save you time too. If you're interested, we have a cookbook. If you go to my website, www.honorableoutfitters.com, on the front page there, you can check that out. There's 97 historical recipes. So again, as far as saving time, There's a lot of great ideas, and they're all from historic campcraft writers. I promise you, from my family and my personal taste, all of them are delicious, and you can prepare them on the fire at camp, or you prepare them at home and take them with you. And they are so, so good, I promise you. Plan out your meals ahead of time. Always try your meals at home on the stove before you try it at the camp. That's going to save you a whole lot of time and frustration. Trust me, been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. So you got your meals, you got your camp set up. What about safety? All right, now make sure your tools are sharp. So, for example, after every camp out, you should check your hatchets. Check your saw if that's what this case is. And make sure there's no nicks. Same thing with your knife. If your saw needs sharpened, or maybe your blade just needs replaced, go ahead and do it. You know, depending on what your financial capabilities are and what your skill is, saw blades really aren't that expensive, but you know, that can save you some time. But you don't want to be sharpening your tools or repairing your tools out in the field. You want to have it ready to go. Same thing with your belt knife and your pocket knife. Those tools are the nucleus of things that you're going to do at camp and you can have fun with. When you're sitting back, you're listening to the birds and the insects and the frogs, or in the winter, maybe you're just trying to listen for the squirrels, or maybe listening for the deer if you're at deer camp and you're just whittling away, right? But a sharp tool is a safe tool. A dull tool is a dangerous tool. You know, I'm a scout leader, and I can't tell you how many accidents or near accidents I have seen. I kind of was involved in a couple myself when I was a kid, just because I didn't sharpen my tools. So again, it's time saving. Sharpen your tools and have it ready to go. Also, have your first aid kit completely packed up and ready to go. After a weekend camp out, check your medicines that you use. If you have regular medicines, or maybe you have sleeping aids. I do. I use sleeping aids because the first night at camping is the hardest night. And man, you want to get sleep, okay? So that's another time aspect, right? If you want to get the most out of your camp out, make sure you get plenty of sleep. Don't be afraid of going to bed a little bit early. That way you're well rested. And, you know, if it's cold, it's a lot easier to go to sleep when it's warm, because heaven knows, you're going to wake up when it's cold. You may have to use the restroom, things like that. So going to bed a little bit early is not a bad thing. You're well rested. You'll have a lot more fun for the weekend. Also, go to the bathroom before you go to bed. I don't care if you went to the bathroom 10 minutes before. Right before you get in your sleeping bag, make sure that you go to the bathroom. That is going to give you a much better night's rest. Don't drink. Kind of dehydrate yourself, okay? Especially if you're my age, dehydrate yourself about an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours before you think you're going to go to bed. Again, trust me, you won't get up 2 or 3 times a night to go to the bathroom, because that's not the best. When you set up your camp, we already talked about having a nice, good area, and you have time to do it. You should also take the same amount of precautions and careful behaviors of packing up your camp, striking your tent, making sure that your ropes are all tied up, because you know, untangling ropes when you're trying to set up a tent, that's a pain in the butt. Take the time, you know, and do it. Don't rush it. Clean off all the debris off your tent. Same thing with your packs and stuff. You know, make sure you have all your pack completely empty, because sometimes critters get in there. So shake it out really good and pack it in just like you packed it before you left. Everything should have its place. Doing things like that is going to put it in memory. And that's going to save you time as well, because you know exactly where your first aid kit, you know exactly where your socks are, you know exactly where your gloves are to go out and stay warm, or maybe do some woodwork, right? So where every time that you pack your pack, make sure you pack it the same way. Now, when you're starting out, it may take a little bit of learning and tweaking about packing your pack. just to get it set right, and the weight distribution one side over the other. So those are some things that you're going to have to tweak, but as you get better, as you become more knowledgeable, you'll be able to do this. You'll be able to do it in your sleep. And then when somebody goes camping with you, you got some tenderfoot or greenhorn, and they say, hey, do you happen to have an extra set of gloves? And you say, yeah, get it in my pack. It's in this particular pocket on the right-hand side. Or if it's a pack like this, it's just an open bag. You say, yeah, open up the flap. It's on the right-hand side as you're looking into it, about midway down. I promise you, saving your time. And you're teaching others the skill as well. Because they'll be so impressed that you know exactly where everything is, and they'll look up to you like, huh, all right, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be just like that. If you're teaching kids, young people, think of doing that. And have them like do a speed run with you. All right, we're going to pack our pack on 3. Let's see who gets everything first. And you just, darn, all right. Make it a game, make a little bit of competition, have a little bit of fun with it with young people, and it's a good time, right? And have the young person take out stuff out of your pack. That way they learn just from seeing it and touching it and everything how you packed it. Again, because they're young, different stuff, different weight, everything. They may have to tweak it a little bit, but they'll at least get the general idea. You're passing on your wisdom, you're passing on your skill. All right. So that kind of concludes the time management thing about going camping. You want to maximize the amount of fun that you can possibly have. Preparing your meals ahead of time, right? Making sure you practice how to cook your meals. Get there early enough so you know you can set it up before dark. Gather your wood or any of your fuel. That way, you're not scrambling in the middle of the night or in the morning, or after you start your fire, you have to leave it to go get more wood, right? So having all your resources in line will go a long way. But it all starts with a setup like this. It all starts with your bag and box. And I tell you, once you go to this type of system, you won't go back. And in case something does hit the fan, again, you know exactly where the stuff is. You can grab it, you can go. So if you like this video, please click like, because it helps other people find it. You'll be doing them a favor. We really appreciate it. If you're interested in getting my monthly newsletter, which has tips and tricks like this, it has articles about the historical artifacts that I just don't have time to put in the video, and it gives you all the updates to the channel, and there's even some special deals on there as far as shopping and things like that. All the different things that I suggest. So if you like this stuff, if you like camping, historical camping, if you like tips and tricks, then definitely in the description box below, you can click that link and just give us your email, and once a month, at the end of the month, we'll send it to you. And I hope you enjoy it. And don't forget to check out my podcast at Campfire Chats, Honorable Outfitters, on all the different podcast networks. All right, so if you're interested in checking out how I pack my bag and the gear that I put in it, then check it out here. If you're interested in my camp box, then check it out here. I hope you guys get out in the woods and have a little bit of time. This is the perfect season. Give a kiss and a hug to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.